Well, it's finally here. The first video in a new series of videos. And not only that, but I drew up a new profile picture and changed my name from Hyono Kashida to Trashbag Hyono, or TBH for short. Yeah, I'm a grumpy trash bag now. So, what exactly is this new series? Well, this video is the first in a new series I'm calling TBH Is Blank Worth Playing Today? Where I'll be discussing about whether or not a game from the past or present is worth playing today. From the N64 to the PS5 and Xbox series. There are so many underrated gems and overrated thuds, and I want to talk about as many of them as I can. So, with the prelude done and dusted, let's get started. TBH, is Dead Island and its sequel, Riptide, worth playing today? Dead Island, the open-world action survival zombie game, was developed by Polish developers Techland, who were, at the time, best known for making 2006's Call of Juarez and its 2009 sequel, Call of Juarez: Bound in Blood. While those games were published by Ubisoft for North America, this time, well-known German studio Deep Silver was handling Dead Island. This studio had a reputation for publishing many beloved classics, such as Singles, Singles 2, Baby Life, Horse Life, and Russell Grant's Astrology for the DS. They later went on and published bigger games like Metro and Saints Row. Techland originally announced Dead Island, or Island of the Living Dead, as it was unofficially known back in time, in E3 2006. Media news outlets like IGN and GameSpot got to play a demo of the game that ran on the same graphics engine used for Call of Juarez. Most news outlets seemed to like it, and thought it showed a lot of promise. They were also very intrigued by the using random objects littered across the world as weapons system. A ridiculous name, for sure. Ironically though, Capcom's beloved classic, Dead Rising, released that same year and had a similar weapon system. But, as time showed, it had more polished and was leagues ahead of Dead Island's own weapon system. After E3 2006, Techland went radio silent, quietly working away until September 2011. A whole 5 years later, Dead Island had finally released for the PS3, the Xbox 360, Windows PC, and Mac to, well, mixed reviews. On Metacritic, the game is seen rather favorably by news outlets, whilst the user reviews are split between good and mixed. Surprisingly though, there is a bigger contrast between mixed and good for the 360 version, the latter being bigger. One of the main reasons why the reception for Dead Island was so mixed was because of the announcement trailer released in February of the same year. For the media, this was the game they already knew about years in advance. For most people though, this was their first time seeing and hearing about it. The announcement trailer was made with CG and played in reverse order. It showed the tragedy of a family vacationing on the fictional island of Benoi. Barely getting any time to enjoy their stay, a zombie outbreak occurs, and with a horde of zombies on their tail, the family makes the decision to retreat to their room. On the way there, the daughter gets bitten by a zombie, and once they make it to their room, she bites her father, to whom throws her out of a window. And the mother was last seen going down, a zombie clad in a white bikini on top of her. The entire family was dead. You only get one chance to make a good first impression, and Techland succeeded in doing so with flying colors. However, they succeeded too well. Gamers were incredibly hyped for Dead Island. At the time, most zombie games focused on having a fun story with funny mechanics, or excellent local and online co-op features. Games like Left 4 Dead and Resident Evil 5 were all fantastic. but you couldn't really say that they tugged on your heartstrings with a dark and emotional story, and Dead Island looked like it was going to break that mold. And then it released, and the opening to the game took all of our expectations and threw it into a zombie-infested pool. The somberness, the tragedy, the heart-wrenching moments, none of that was here, and was instead replaced by a slobbering drunk who makes an ass out of himself and manages to run into all 4 of our main playable characters, and, more than likely, died. A truly fantastic start. Now that we know about the history of Dead Island, let's talk about the game itself. Keep in mind that I will be talking about the 2016 remaster Dead Island Definitive Edition, and not the original versions, although I will touch on those later in the video. With the surprise announcement that Dead Island 2 was actually going to release on April 21st, 2023, I thought it would be a great time to play Dead Island and its sequel Riptide for the very first time. I remember briefly playing, I think, Riptide on my cousin's PS3 for an hour or so back in maybe 2012 or 2013, but I couldn't really remember anything about it. So, needless to say, I was actually pretty excited to go into it with a fresh mind. And after playing both definitive editions, I can definitively say that these were some of the worst zombie games I have ever played. So why do these games suck? Well, let's start by talking about what version of the game I played. This was the definitive edition, a remaster from Techland themselves. It features overhauled graphics, models, lighting, bug fixes, and seamless multiplayer, as well as all previously released DLC. In reality though, the graphics are okay when standing still, but in motion, it's ruined by the awful motion blur and bloom. Zombie and NPC models are recycled far too often. Lighting can be hit or miss due to the aforementioned bloom. Some bugs from the original have been fixed, but there's still a plethora of them roaming around the world. The online co-op was there and it worked, albeit a little janky, but for the most part it was fine, although I didn't get to enjoy much of it due to my acquaintance leaving within the hour. And the DLC was something I never really noticed, aside from Ryder's campaign in the first Dead Island. So, why do I think the graphics are just okay? I mean, they're using the same engine as Dying Light, and that game looked beautiful. Well, it comes down to 3 main things: art style, bloom, and motion blur. When standing still from a high spot, the beaches of Benoi can look absolutely gorgeous, but overall, unmemorable. Most areas are blink and you'll forget spots. Many places and things like chairs, bar huts, and rooms are overly recycled, and honestly, not that great to look at. There was really only one spot that I remember, one spot where I actually felt something, and that was this random guy on his knees in the middle of a blood-soaked pool, his regrets being voiced on a loop. This one moment looked and felt like everything Dead Island should have been. This spot stuck to my brain throughout the entire game, and nothing else I saw, nothing else I did, really lived up or surpassed that moment. It was perfect. So we've established that the art style and art direction for this game was overall unmemorable. So what about bloom? Well, when used right, bloom can be an effective way to make an area or environment shine. However, Dead Island takes it 4 steps too far, and now the island of Benoi is oversaturated with bloom. Want to go for a nice drive? You can't, because your FOV is too far from the too small windshield, and bloom is always blinding you and blurring whatever's in front of you. Turn a corner in a room and think you got flashbang? Nope, that's just a window. Look down at some water and think you went to heaven? Nope, that's just a reflection of a vending machine. I could go on, but I think you get the point. The bloom in this game is set way too high and will often blind the player. The bloom in this game is pretty bad. However, there's an even bigger problem, the biggest problem, and that is motion blur, the Steven Seagal of graphics options. Motion blur, like bloom, is overdone and cannot be toggled on or off on both consoles and PC. And what makes this even worse is that this is a 30 frames per second game. This quite honestly was a stupid decision by Techland. Motion blur, bloom, and FOV should always be an option in first-person games. Otherwise, your game will look like Dead Island, a large bowl filled with an excessive amount of reflective, shiny grease. Oh, and did I mention how difficult it is to drive in this game? We'll add motion blur to that, and you're basically just praying that you don't crash into a light pole or a fire object or even a zombie. Yes, some zombies can actually stop your car, although I think that's a bug. So yeah, unless Techland decides to patch the game, which is highly doubtful, console players are going to be stuck at 30 FPS with bad motion blur and bad bloom. Lucky for PC users though, they can mod these options into the game. Yeah, that's right. They have to mod the game in order to turn off any of these options, minus the frame rate. It's ridiculous how that wasn't even an option for PC. You would think that that option would be on PC. But I guess back when this first released, Techland was behind the times. Which makes no sense because Dying Light had released just a year earlier. In 2015, they released Dying Light with all of those options available. This game, Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, released in 2016. Why did they not put these options into the game? It's baffling. But honestly, if you need to go so far as to mod the game to make it better, you may as well just mod in a better game. So the graphics aren't up to snuff. Whatever, who cares? Graphics don't mean much as long as the gameplay and mechanics are good. So how is the gameplay? Well, if I were to sum it up with a singular word, I would say it's dated. And I don't just mean that it's dated today. Even back in 2011, the game would have felt dated. Keep in mind that the definitive version is mainly just a graphics update. So most of everything I talk about here, aside from a few things such as guns, applies to the 2011 version. So right from the very start, when you start moving your character through the seemingly desolate hotel, movement feels stiff. When you walk forwards and backwards, it feels relatively fine. But when you start to move left, right, or diagonally, your feet suddenly start sticking to the ground, making movement incredibly slow. This makes dodging zombies, walkers, infected, or rams a near impossibility. You could perform a dodge move, however, which is just jumping left or right. However, 60% of the time, you get hit every time, especially against chargers. Which brings me to my next topic, getting knocked down. Getting knocked down in the first Dead Island game is one of the worst experiences in the game, and there are 3 main ways to do it. Running out of stamina, getting hit by a thug, or getting hit by a ram. Getting knocked down in this game sucks. It serves no real purpose other than to pad out the game. Every time you get knocked down, it takes roughly 7 seconds for you to get back up, and when you go against a thug or a ram, you'll most likely go down several times before either dying or killing the enemy. Hell, the worst thing about getting knocked down are the zombies that surround you. Instead of attacking you and chewing you up like normal zombies do, they just stand there, patiently waiting for you to get back up, all the while your stamina and health is refilling itself and then proceed to gangbang you until you're dead. Utterly pointless and frustrating mechanic. It took me around 18 hours to beat the first game, and honestly, I'm pretty sure 3 of those hours were spent knocked down on the ground or waiting to respawn. Speaking of respawning, it's gonna happen a lot. Zombies can take out a huge chunk of your health bar with just a single hit, and it never gets easier. There is no enemy type more dangerous, more annoying than the infected. These normal-looking zombies let loose an ear-piercing scream, calling in other infected to charge you and swing their arms with uncontrollable rage. With the stiff movement and janky jump mechanic, running away from these assholes is a real challenge and will likely end with you dying. It only takes 4 seconds for them to kill you with their flurry of swings that rocks your camera back and forth, the effect of getting hit blinding you, and the awful motion blur ensures your demise. Facing these sacks of shit is never fun, and it gets even worse when the game throws these enemies alongside thugs, rams, and normal zombies, all at the same time, leading to a frustrating trial and error of just running past them to get to the next damn story objective. You would think that leveling up in this game would make it easier, more fun, and overall less frustrating. Unfortunately, that's not the case in either game. Aside from unlocking Fury mode, the leveling system in this game is downright pointless. As you level up, zombies will scale up alongside with you. You get more health, but you will die just as fast as you would with the default health. Zombies also get more health, but instead of being just as easy to kill, they get harder. Skills in this game are just numbers. You could get 3% more sharp damage, 10% less stamina consumed, 6% more sharp damage. Boring, useless, and not fun. You're better off putting all of your skills into Fury, as Fury mode is actually fun to do, but doesn't last too long. Oh, and unfortunately, you can still get hurt and knocked down, which wastes your precious Fury time as you get up. Oh, and close range fights with zombies always suck. In order to hurt a zombie, you have to be just close enough to hit them. Unfortunately though, that range is also enough for the zombie to hit you too. So unless you swing and then immediately jump back, you're always getting hit, and that leads to these drawn out fights, regardless of your weapon. Have a nice long bat? Nope, have to get in close. Have a paddle with the badass buzzsaw on it? Nope, still have to be within hitting range. So, if close fight encounters are difficult, how about long range? Yeah, we've got some real, real ugly looking guns. They sort of look like Dying Light's guns, but somehow even worse. Not only that, but they play worse. I genuinely wish the guns in this game were good. Imagine, after hours of frustratingly fighting the undead, we finally get access to guns, and man oh man, are they powerful. Ammo is limited, but using what little you have, you rip through the undead like Swiss cheese. Reality, however, sets in, and you blast a zombie with a shotgun, only to see their health go from 100 to 50. Great. Guns are actually one of the few things they changed from the 2011 version. In the original, guns were beastly, especially if you played as Perna. In the definitive version, it could take 4 to 8 headshots with a pistol for a zombie to die, and maybe have their head explode. That honestly doesn't sound too bad, seeing as how Dying Light had the same thing. That is, until you see the auto-aim in this game. When you aim at a zombie, the gun will snap onto its chest. It's not too bad, that's pretty good. But then you try to move the gun up to line up a headshot, and your gun suddenly feels like it got webbed up by Spider-Man because it takes ages to move the gun in any direction, leading you to frustratingly compensate for the zombie's head, rolling around, and then missing most of your shots. Oh, and on both console and PC, you can't turn it off, because of course you can't. There's a lot more gameplay faults to discuss, but I think you understand. So, if the graphics don't hold up and the gameplay isn't that fun, what about the story? Does the story and characters hold everything up? Of course not. You, alongside 3 other unlikely heroes, are immune to the virus. How? Well, spoiler alert, because the 4 of you are O negative. A fun fact that you learn in an email, or a note, or something. I genuinely can't remember. But wait, there's more. You see, the heroes aren't actually immune, as you find out in the sequel, Riptide. No, you're just prolonging your turning, and soon you will become a zombie. There. Done. That basically sums up the entire story from Dead Island 1 to Riptide. Nothing else matters. The guy you meet at the beginning, Cinemoy, is relevant for an hour, and then turns into a radio voice that's constantly begging for help, which you never do. Somehow, though, canonically, he escapes the island, but it's never explained in either game. There's also this moody girl named Cindy? Kelly? Anna? Who knows, I genuinely can't remember, but she joins her group and appears in a cutscene or two, and then dies at the end of the game for no real reason. And the heroes all look sad. All the while, I'm just trying to remember who the hell she is. Kevin, the real bad guy, tricks us into thinking he's good and flies us to the military ship, and then he's never heard from or mentioned again. Yerma is apparently the root cause of the virus, and at the beginning of Riptide, she bites a guy and was never seen again. And finally, Ryder White, the main bad guy / DLC character. If you played the game without ever playing the DLC campaign, all you really know is that he's the voice who helped you out and is now the bad guy with a dying wife at the end. The DLC turns him into a vulnerable Rambo, and he is forced to clear the prison for our heroes, and then he dies. Basically every NPC you meet either dies or is never seen nor mentioned again. And, well, that's it. There's not really much else to talk about. I've said everything I needed to say about this game. Although, back at the beginning of the video, I did mention playing this game before in my cousin's PS3, and then I didn't remember much of it. Well, after playing both games, I remembered why I didn't remember. It was boring. I wasn't much of a gamer back then, but you would think that a game like this would have entertained a young idiot such as myself to some extent, but it didn't. If I were to rate the definitive editions, I'd give Dead Island 1 a 2 out of 10, and Riptide a 3 out of 10, only because in Riptide, they added a skill where you could get up faster after getting knocked down. A real game changer. And so we've reached the end of the video, and to be honest, is Dead Island worth playing today? No, absolutely not. Glued together visuals, clunky stiff gameplay, and an easily forgettable story, Dead Island just doesn't hold up on any level. I suppose if you have a PC, or some friends, it might be worth playing. But that's only because on PC you can mod the game to be better, and if you have friends, I don't know, it might make it more enjoyable. Although, I did play it with a friend, at least, for an hour, until he got so bored and frustrated he left, leaving me to finish the game by myself. Which I genuinely regret. For console owners though, it's a flat no all around, even with friends. Nothing can really justify playing this game. If you do though, then hey, I hope you and up to 3 other friends can enjoy it and have a good time. But for me, I bought both games for $8 in total, and I wish I could get my money and my time back. Wow. Well, that's my first video in a brand new series. I finally did it. It was a lot of fun to write the script and edit this all together, even if it was for a game I genuinely disliked. And if I'm being honest, this wasn't the game I originally wanted to talk about first, but with the release of Dead Island 2, I figured it would be a good time to experience the originals. And yeah, I am really, really late. Wow. From what I hear though, Dead Island 2 is living up to be a great game that most people really enjoy. And I'm really glad. I thought it might have been a Duke Nukem disaster, considering how long it's been in development, but honestly, good on Dan Buster for proving everyone wrong. The Dead Island series needed a win, especially after the last Dead Island game, Escape Dead Island. And I will never, ever talk about that train wreck of a game. So, will I be getting Dead Island 2? At the moment, not really. I am so burned out on Dead Island, and I don't even want to touch it for at least another couple of months. And by that point, who knows, maybe Dead Island 2 will be on sale for $40 to $30. Maybe they'll add DLC and patch the game. It is something I definitely want to play though. Well, seeing as this is my first video, I would love any and all feedback. Did you like the structure of this video? Do you like the visuals? Is my voice really that bad? Please let me know in the comments below. And I apologize for rambling, but I'm so tired. I'm not sure exactly how to close this video off, so I guess I'll just say, have a good day. Thank you.